story this morning. Dak Prescott still without a contract after being tagged by the Cowboys last month. The quarterback reportedly will not participate in any of the team's virtual offseason programs without a new deal. Cowboys CEO Stephen Jones was asked about it yesterday.
I'm not necessarily aware of that. He certainly was sent an iPad, and I know he certainly can participate. Every player, for every player, it's voluntary, and in terms of their participation in the virtual meetings. And but I'm not aware and hadn't been made aware of to what degree Dak's participation level would be.
Our insider is Dan Graziano, and he's with us here. Dan, what are we hearing about Dak?
Yeah, he doesn't have to make the Cowboys aware, but we are aware through our reporting that Dak Prescott does not plan on participating in these virtual workouts, virtual meetings, as long as he does not have a long-term contract in place. As their designated franchise player, until he signs that franchise tender, he's not even technically under contract with the team. So let's project a situation where it was a normal year and the Cowboys were all getting together this week or next week to start their offseason program. If the Dak Prescott situation with regard to a long-term contract has not yet been resolved, I don't expect that he would have been in attendance. And so extend it out to this year. I don't think he's going to participate in any of the online stuff that replaces that.
All right. So, I mean, I think I speak for everyone when I say, what the heck is going on? And why hasn't this happened yet?
The contract they continue to work on. They didn't get it signed, obviously, before Dallas had to end up franchising him. So the next deadline is July 15th. If you don't get a long-term contract signed with your franchise player before July 15th, you're not allowed to talk about it again until after the season ends. So at this point, neither side is in a huge rush because they know that's the deadline. And right now, the Cowboys have made large offers to Dak Prescott. The franchise tag will pay him about $30 million. So it's not as if they don't want him. They just haven't gotten to his number yet, and they continue to have negotiations toward that end.
Well, look, as this thing stretches its way over towards the draft, there is just not going to help but be a part of you that is going to watch and see what the Cowboys do on draft night, especially if a quarterback falls in their direction. Meanwhile, as I prepare to bring the rest of my crew in this morning, I want you all to hear what Marcus Spears said yesterday on NFL Live. He was asked about this situation with Dak and what he should and shouldn't do, and Marcus did not hold back.
Ain't no way in hell I would until I got my money. I talked about it. I talked about this about a month ago. I'm not doing anything. I'm not saying the Dallas Cowboys name until this contract is done. When you feel like you have a value and you feel like you should be paid and you're not, it's the age-old thing that players do in the NFL. They withhold services. They withhold their availability. That's what Dak Prescott is doing. And if I was his agent, I would tell him to do the same damn thing.
So Marcus would do the same thing, and Dominique Foxworth said he would do the same thing. Let's hear from a coach. Rex Ryan and Damien Woody are with us here. Rex, I will start with you. What do you think of the way this is being handled in Dallas by Dak and everybody?
Well, first off, I'll say this, Greeny, that obviously I understand where Marcus is coming from, Dominique, every single player, because it's about getting paid, and what everybody has seen is that the squeaky wheel kind of gets the grease, so to speak, where Dak has done everything right, everything asked of him. He's done exactly what the team has wanted, and yet he still hasn't had that long-term contract. So I certainly understand that. However, I think these circumstances from a coach's standpoint, especially your first year on a job. So Mike McCarthy comes in, and there should be that excitement, you know, and all those type of things. His first meeting, for goodness sake, to set the message, the tone for his whole football team, and yet the leader of the team's not going to be there. So I think it's a much bigger deal than people are making it out to be. Even you hear Stephen Jones talking about how, well, it's voluntary. Let me tell you something. From a coach's standpoint, this thing is a burr in your saddle. Trust me, with any player that chooses not to attend. And I get it. We would always have to say the right thing. Well, hey, it's just voluntary. Oh, yeah? Trust me. I know how I felt about it, and I know how every single coach feels about it. They will not publicly say that, but trust me, I can assure you that this is not sitting well with Mike McCarthy. And stuff rolls downhill. You know darn well he's gone to his offensive coordinator. He's gone to my guy, boy wonder, Kellen Moore. I love him as a coach, but come on, get a little better in the red zone. But it's gone down to even him. Like, come on, Kellen, you can't get your player there. So trust me, I've been in that situation as an assistant. I've been there as a head coach. And believe me, this is a much bigger deal for the coach than it is for the player. But Dak has done everything right and never been rewarded. So I understand his point, certainly.
All right, quickly, Rex, I just want to ask you one more thing, because I think we all agree. You're right. It's voluntary, but we all agree. If he had a contract, Dak would be a part of this right now, voluntary or not. So if you're the coach, are you in there saying to the owner or anyone else lobbying, hey, you got to get my guy in here?
Well, I think that's understood. I think when he sits in there with the owner that they're talking about, we're going to franchise him. But trust me, he wants a long-term deal. Part of the great thing about the Dallas Cowboys wasn't just the star in the helmet. It was the fact that the talent that you have on the field. And Dak Prescott's your best player, and he plays the most important position in all of sports, playing quarterback. So to me, yes, that's the most appealing thing about the job. You want to get your quarterback signed and him being side by side with you.
And D. Wood, how about the rest of that locker room? They've all seen what's gone on. They've all seen which guys have gotten paid and the fact that Dak has not. How do you think the other guys in that locker room are feeling about it?
The players are with Dak Prescott in this particular situation. Listen, a couple things. One, we're in the offseason, okay? Offseason, players tend to be like, whenever we're talking about business, that is your business. So go handle your business in this particular situation. And Dak Prescott's not under contract. If you're Dak Prescott, you've looked over the past year where the Dallas Cowboys could have signed you last year. You watched Zeke Elliott, who was under contract, hold out, go to Cabo, and get paid, become the highest paid running back in the National Football League. You saw Jalen Smith get paid. You saw Lael Collins get paid. And Dak Prescott, who's only has the second most wins behind Tom Brady since coming into the National Football League in 2016, is looking at himself saying, what more do I have to do to get paid from the Dallas Cowboys? So I totally agree with what Dak Prescott is doing.
And is it a big deal? I only have a few seconds here, but D. Wood, some might look at this and say they're not even in the building. It's online stuff. It's voluntary. Is it a big deal?
Well, I think it takes some of the sting out of it because you're not physically in the building, but it sends a signal like, listen, I want my money. I'm not playing about this contract right now. I want my money.
Yeah, it feels like it's a big deal, and it feels like it's not stopping in Dallas, which I think confuses a lot of people. It certainly confuses me. Guys, hang on, because I have more to do here. Let's talk about another quarterback, and that's Joe Burrow. He will hear his name called, we assume, first a week from tomorrow night when the Bengals make him the top pick in the draft. He was interviewed on the radio in Baton Rouge yesterday, and he was asked about the prospect of playing for a franchise that hasn't had a lot of success in recent times.
The draft is funny because you don't have, not a lot of professions pick you. So, whatever team I go to, it's going to be a challenge to begin, and I'm going to have to, persevere through it. And just like I've done in the past, you might have a really good first year, you might have a really bad first year. You don't really know, especially without OTAs this year, and you're going to have less time with your team. So there's going to be ups and downs for sure. You're just going to have to battle through it.
All right, Laura and Mel are both back with us again here. And so, Laura, look, the teams get the first pick in the draft for a reason. Burrow is stepping into a situation where they've been doing a lot of losing. You know him well. What can you tell us about his mental makeup and ability to handle that?
I think a few things are important here, Greeny. He's been through a lot already at a relatively young age, although he's still older than some quarterbacks that are currently playing in the NFL. He was trying to get the starting job at Ohio State, didn't get it, was given an opportunity to transfer for himself, and he took that and then went into an environment at LSU where they hadn't had a quarterback succeed in years, and they could not beat Alabama. And not only does he have massive success after not a great first season at LSU by his standards, but then he goes on and he shows that he can beat Alabama. He shows that he can go to Tuscaloosa. His teammates carrying him on their shoulders. That was what Joe Burrow did in a very short period of time at LSU. And I think it shows how he can rally a group of young men. That's what he'll need to do with older men at the next level. He has that type of it factor that allows people to gravitate to him no matter what's going on. And the other point that I think is important here, he's a kid from Southeast Ohio. I think he'll be given a little bit more leeway in the eyes of Bengals fans for what they expect out of him. What is going to be expected early on might be a little bit less of what it would be if he was somebody who was considered, an outsider instead of just their almost young son that they look at with Joe Burrow. He's an Ohio kid coming back home. People are going to like that story. I think it buys him a little bit of time to have some success, maybe limit some of the adversity that he hears from the outside noise standpoint.
Yeah, and he's built up a lot of goodwill with some of the things that he's done off the field there as well. I agree. Mel, let me ask you, it feels like when we talk about this pick and this draft, it almost feels like people are positioning this like Burrow is being set up to fail in Cincinnati. What do you think of that perspective?
I'm disgusted by it, Greeny. It makes me sick. And I've been screaming about this for months. I hear this garbage. Everybody wants to spew about the Bengals, and it's the horrible place to go. It's awful. You got no chance for a quarterback to have success. What are you, dreaming? You want to just throw out inaccurate information? Fine, but it makes me sick. The 81 and 88 may be too long ago, but they won in 81 with Kenny Anderson, 88 with Boomer Esiason. If that's too far removed, fine. Let's fast forward to 2011, 2015. That's not 100 years ago, guys. Okay, they had 5 straight winning seasons, 5 straight playoff appearances. Should have beat Pittsburgh. It was a penalty late that cost them that opportunity. They had an 11 and 12 win season mixed in to those 5 straight years of getting to the playoffs. Okay, and with Carson Palmer, he got hurt in a playoff game where they may have won that game. Andy Dalton had success. So this notion that Joe Burrow is going to a place that's never won, never had success, never had a quarterback do anything is utterly ridiculous.
That might have been my favorite moment that we've had on the show, and as long as I can remember. Who saw that coming? Mel, you seem to be very passionate about this, and I like it.
There's no other way to go, Greeny. I mean, come on. They're going to say quarterbacks have never had any success. They've done nothing but lose in Cincinnati. I remember talking to Mike Brown back in 83, 84, prior to the draft. Steve Young had gone to the USFL. They were thinking about Boomer Esiason. They took Boomer in the second round, had 3 first-round picks, and that didn't really pan out, right? Yet, a few years later, Boomer was in a Super Bowl when he could have won against that great 49er team had it not been for the Montana Drive, okay? Well, something happened. When you didn't have 3 first-round picks do a lot, some personnel got taken in there to help Boomer Esiason get to that Super Bowl. So this notion that Mike Brown and the Bengals don't know how to do it and don't know how to get it done, yes, it's not the traditional way. The coaches are heavily involved, okay? Fine. But it's not like Joe Burrow's going to a place where he has 0 chance to be successful. And ironically, nobody wanted Joe Burrow coming out of high school. He said, hey, nobody wanted me, okay? Now you're going to say, I don't want to go to the Bengals, or I don't want to, now all of a sudden you're going to flip the script? Joe Burrow will be fine. The Bengals will be fine. Come on. Like I said, 2011 to 2015 isn't 300 years ago.
Okay, that is extraordinary.